Okay, welcome back, and we're now moving on to our regular segment, the Picks of the Week, where we talk about any TV shows, films, or games that we've been playing or watching, and we think you, the audience, the listeners, the viewers, might also enjoy as well. So, let's kick it off with Chris, my buddy. What is your pick of the week?
My pick is Tales from the Loop. Have you guys heard about this?
Yes.
No,
on Amazon.
I know about the art that it's based on that I need to look at, and I do want to see this show, but go ahead.
I've been clicking on this for a long time because it's one of those that every time you turn on your Fire Stick or Fire TV, there's like an ad for it in that little small rectangle thing. And it looks kind of neat. I've even watched the trailer once or something, and I was like, oh, that looks kind of neat. But I for some reason, I've really been in, you know what it is? I know it. The whole UFO disclosure that the New York Times is doing, which is some really amazing stuff. Like, that's got me really back into the whole like sci-fi stuff this past month.
Thank you, Tom DeLonge.
Hey, he's doing the Lord
he's doing
Will right there. Like, no, he's batshit crazy, but I love Tom DeLonge. So anyway, I've been looking for some new sci-fi stuff. I've even gone back and started watching some Star Trek. But a couple nights ago, we were sitting down, and I was like, "Hey, let's check this out." And so we started watching it, and it's actually a really fun show. I'm really digging it. So the idea is, this old man has built this machine underneath this like small town in like Ohio or something, and it's basically, you don't really know what it is, like the loop, but they've got some sort of giant black sphere that powers the whole thing, and it's some sort of, it looks like it's an alien object or something. And so they just do all these experiments, and they try to solve what can't be done, essentially, just like unlocking mysteries, all this crazy stuff. But the movies or the show's not really about that so much. It's more about the people in the town who are all interconnected in ways that they may not realize, but they are. And each episode kind of focuses on one character of this either family or like this that work in this research facility underground. And it's weird because the whole town pretty much works there. Like, it shows them all walking to work, and they're all going down these stairs and everything. But it's not like a dystopian feel to it. It's more of like, did you ever watch that show Eureka on the Sci-Fi Channel back in the day? It wasn't even long ago. I loved Eureka.
Is that a town called Eureka? Is that what it's called?
Yes. It was like Eureka, Colorado or something. And the idea was that like all these, there's like a town full of like inventors and all this stuff. So they just had all these wacky things. And it's kind of, in a way, it kind of feels like that. Because there's all this like technology and other like technical relics that you see strewn about the scenes in this show, and it's just shot like very atmospheric. It takes its time in shots and stuff. It's not an action show. It's really kind of hard to pin down, but I really love like just the sense of wonder that you kind of get when watching this show. And it moves very slow. I will say that. Like, it's not the first episode is probably the best, and it has probably the most action in it. But outside of that, a lot of them are more slow. But they're really cool. Like, there's this one episode about this guy who he's kind of down on his luck a bit. His son has recently like gone into a coma, and he's kind of picked on at work. He kind of works not in a very like prestigious job. He goes out and like, he's kind of like a mechanic, and him and his wife aren't getting along very well, and like it's getting close to where I think she's going to leave him. And they started getting these break-ins like on their property, and she's like, like yelling at him and saying that he can't protect them and all this stuff. So he starts kind of going a little crazy and ends up taking an advance out at work so he can go buy this this machine that kind of looks like an AT-AT from Star Wars.
Okay.
But you put on this like backpack and this glove, and it's got this one giant arm claw in front of it, and it will mimic like anything that you do. Okay. And so this one guy who he bought it from was using it like in a scrap yard. So he'd go and like pick stuff up and move it and stuff. But he bought it from that guy as like a personal defense system. And so he'd be like walking outside and his like little giant robots following him. And because he's like going to punch like anyone that comes in. And it's just like really weird stuff like that. It's so trippy. But dude, it's a lot of fun. And it's like a cool show where like if you just want to chill out and just kind of watch something that is just like real kind of smooth and chill, it's a great show to watch.
Okay, this is very much on my radar. The show is based off of Simon Stålenhag. He's a Swedish artist. It's based off his artwork. I plopped you guys a link in our chat because his artwork is amazing. It's sci-fi, and if you took the movie The Fog and then put giant robotic type structures in there. So one of them that I'm looking at is literally what you described, Chris, with that orange and white AT-AT. But a kid's got the backpack on and his claw, and you can see him kind of trying to manipulate it in a field. Another one that I'm looking at, these are all paintings, is very much like, what's it called? Like a clover leaf of intersections for the interstates, merging lanes and stuff. And there's like this, it looks like a giant, what would have been a Sonic. It has a Sonic face and then a white glove, but it looks like it's like laying over top and just died on this freeway. So the pictures, and there's another one of this big two-legged beast that has like 30 tethers going to the ground off in the distance on the side of the road, and you see a bunch of people looking at it and stuff from their car and everything. So all his paintings are very much these still moments of the sci-fi world in the future where you see this moment and you're like, what was this world like before everything suddenly stopped, and this is what I'm looking at right now. It's very cool artwork, and I do really want to see the show because it's weird, but a show is based off of paintings. Yeah,
I didn't know that, and now looking through this, it's absolutely 100%. Like there's just a lot of the vibe, and you'll see that a lot. And it's stuff that's not even really consequential, or at least you don't think it is at the time. It's just like you'll be passing by and you'll see like an old robot just sitting in a field, and it's just like a passing shot. It's like. And so and that's what's kind of neat. And I think what's kind of neat, cool kind of world building and lore that they're doing is just like, there's all this stuff scattered around. And there's this one girl that gets this, it looks like almost like a, not like an urn, I guess, but it's like something you would put in like coffee or something, those old like coffee mate looking things you'd carry with you to work back in like the 80s.
Like a flask,
thermos,
like a thermos,
like a metal thermos and stuff. It kind of looks like that. It's weird. And
a space age thing, a thermos.
And so she finds out that like she puts this like new like some sort of crystal or something in there, and she detaches these rings off of it, that it actually stops time. And so her and this guy that she kind of has a crush on just stop time and spend like months together, and they're like going into all the businesses and like taking stuff, and they're going into people's homes and just like living in their home and stuff, because it's like these people are gone and they can just kind of do whatever. It's really just it's really kind of neat. I really am digging what they're doing. So
are all is it like quite an episodic show that each episode's very different, or is it like a one long storyline that flows that you kind of have to follow each episode?
Yeah, you definitely need to follow each episode, because there is stuff that's like, because like I said, they're interconnected. Like, and it's more about like the people and their relationships on how they're kind of interconnected, and the things that, someone does and how it kind of affects someone else, like indirectly even.
Okay.
And it's just, it's really cool. I definitely suggest checking it out.
Cool. Now that you started talking about it, I watched a lot of stuff on Amazon, and the adverts have come up while I've started watching an episode, but I'm very much a skip advert kind of person. So I know now, I kind of vaguely know what you're talking about now, because when you first said it, I said, I've got no idea about what this show is, but yes, I've seen trailers for it. But yeah, I'll check it out. It seems quite interesting. Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, I love like the world that this whole thing is, because another neat thing is like you don't really know when it's set either, because the town, it almost feels like it's from like an alternate, like maybe 1950s 60s, where like the sci-fi stuff is like the way the small town is laid out and everything, and how it has kind of a main street, but you'll see newer vehicles and stuff that aren't from that era, and so it's kind of weird. And I'm trying to watch it and figure out if I can pin down like what like decade or time frame it's set in.
Okay, that's cool. I like that.
Yeah. So
nice.
Let me know if you guys check it out.
We'll do. Stay tuned, folks.
Yeah, actually, on that note, anybody listening or watching, if you check out our recommendations, let us know. We're curious to hear what people think of the stuff we're recommending.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, if you hate it, if you think we're all idiots, please do tell us. But if you're loving it, even better. Great to hear. So, Scotty, what is your pick of the week?
Yeah, I kind of stumbled upon this because during my quick lunch breaks, I wanted to get into a show rather than spending half of it looking for a video or something to watch on YouTube and then finally watching a portion of that video. So on Netflix, there is the Transformers War for Cybertron Trilogy. Siege is the full name of what I'm watching. It's animated. It's CG. It's declared as anime on Netflix. I'm not sure how anything gets, but there are no humans in it. I want to first clarify that this is the Transformers, baby. This is not Michael Bay's Transformers, but really Shia LaBeouf and Mark Wahlberg. But no, Transformers. It's definitely for G1 Generation 1 fans. And fans of even, I'd say, the War for Cybertron, Fall of Cybertron games on PS3 and 360. I think they dig it. It is dark. I won't say much aside from that, because if I go into much detail, there could be spoilers. Okay. However, like an idea of, for fans, how it is cool and does a different take on stuff. Bumblebee is not even an Autobot. He's kind of the lone dude running missions and his own errands to make money and make ends meet. Not really a bounty hunter, but definitely his own guy. And that happens in the first episode, so that's not spoilers, but it was cool that one of the more well-known Autobots is not even a good guy necessarily, or a bad guy. He's just his own dude.
Okay, like the Han Solo.
But I've watched a couple episodes. I don't know that he's that.
Okay,
I don't know. And also, I'm tired of everything getting compared to Star Wars, but that's me. Bumblebee is cool. Sorry, Graham. But none of the original voices are in it. I can't remember the name of who did Optimus Prime now.
Tom DeLonge.
But it doesn't take away from it. Yeah, that's it. Tom DeLonge's not in it, unfortunately. But maybe to entice some fans, if you're on the fence, you don't want your OG Transformers ruined or whatever, there are some bots in there that you kind of forget about. Like RC was one of the few female Transformers. She's in this. There is another Autobot that looks exactly like Cup, but she's not named Cup, but she looks like, I don't know if that's something else that I'm forgetting. There's Transformers lore, I will admit I am not as well versed on compared to other things from the 80s. Like, I never got into the comics, didn't go too much further myself besides the movie and the animated original cartoon. But a lot of times you'll be watching the show and you'll forget and you'll be like, I know that one. That's definitely, and then they'll say Ironhide. Like, oh yeah, that's Ironhide. That's his name. All right, right on. Yeah, okay, cool. It's very good. It's dark, but it's cool, and it doesn't lay it all out for you. It's for an older crowd of kids, but also I think is appealing to the adult fans like myself of Transformers, because it doesn't say like, this is Optimus. He is the leader. I'm glad you're leading us, Optimus, because you are the leader. Like, it's not like a kid's show like that. Like, you know who Optimus Prime is. And what I thought was really interesting, I did try to get into the Transformer novels, and one of them I read introduced, or it showed how Megatron and Optimus were introduced friends before the war, comrades, and both had the same ideas for freedom and fighting against kind of the corporate empire that would have been in Transformers and stuff, but they had very different views on how to fight that fight. And so it led to what Transformers is now, or what they're fighting for now and everything. So this kind of touches on that, though, how Optimus and Megatron were actually buddies before battles began and things
Just
like
like
that.
Professor X
yeah,
and Magneto. Huzzah! Another popcorn
yeah,
reference.
kind of like that. Yeah.
Because even then, I think they even show because I've been watching it a bit too, Scotty. I think I'm on episode 3 right now.
All right,
and I like that it in a way like Megatron's not a villain in this yet. Like in I think he thinks he's doing the right thing. If anything, I think he's maybe an anti-hero right now, where he's willing to do kind of go past the line to do what needs to be done. And so he's trying to end the war. Him and Optimus are both trying to end the war. Optimus wants to end it, like they don't really spell out, but they're just, they always, Optimus will say like Megatron's way is going to enslave Transformers and stuff. And they don't really go in depth on like how. It's just it's just painting Megatron to be much more authoritarian, I think. And Optimus like the opposite of that. And it is really cool. I'm really digging it. What's crazy is I'm having a hard time getting my kids to watch it with me. Like they just don't seem interested in it. I thought they would be because Odin loves Transformers. You know what he wants to fucking do? Watch the Michael Bay Transformers movies instead.
Hey, he's all about
so I came in the other day and he's watching. He turned this movie off, and then I come back in the room. He's watching that new Bumblebee movie. Which isn't actually that bad. They got. I
do want to see it.
I like the designs, the character designs, and that much more than some of the other stuff that they've done. But I'm really enjoying War for Cybertron. I think it's really cool.
Yeah, I really dig it. Part of me is like, this is filling that void that. If anyone, we never really talk about Transformers, oddly, amongst any of us on the Megavision staff. I think a couple of us are fans of it, though, but we've never talked about the War for Cybertron games. The second one was such a cliffhanger, and then the next game there was like either no publicity around it or something, but the next game came out and just did not live up to anything those first two games did. So I like to think that this series is kind of filling that void for me as well. But it's really cool. It's when you turn on an episode, the beginning of it gives a little rating, like the not NC, whatever it is. But one of the descriptions is fear, and then the next word that describes the rating. It cracks me up every time. I don't understand it. I've never seen it for any other show, but I also haven't been tuned into Netflix much lately outside of this. So I dig it, though. I recommend it for. I don't think it's going to bring any new people into Transformers. I think it's for already established fans.
Yeah.
So
maybe that's the problem your kids are having there, Chris. That maybe even though they like the Transformers Michael Bay stuff, maybe because it's not like maybe this is more for the old school people. But
you are muted. You are muted, Chris. You're muted.
I think the reason is that they grew up with the Michael Bay stuff. That's like the first Transformers stuff they saw, and so that's what they connect it with. And when it's not that, and they say these like G1 where it's like more kind of, I guess, simple designs, or like I don't want to say simple. But,
yeah, you're telling me.
But they're just
Michael Bay was too busy.
Yeah, they harken back just to like a straightforward design, I guess. And they see that and they don't connect with it at all, and it's makes me mad. Damn it! Like I don't know.
I have a very strange.
I've watched this.
So go.
I was gonna. I'll tailor onto that real quick and then throw it to you, Graham. I have been meaning to introduce Rachel to Transformers, but I don't. This show is not the way to do it, and I want to do it before the In Search of Tomorrow documentary comes out, because In Search of Tomorrow, as opposed to In Search of Darkness, where it's all horror movies but real life or live action or whatever, In Search of Tomorrow actually has two animated films that they talk about in it, Akira, and then also the first Transformers movie. That's how I was introduced to Transformers, so that's kind of what I want to show Rachel, because I feel like the Transformers movie is still at the it's just really good, and so but I'll be watching this and I'll forget that she hasn't seen anything Transformers, and she'll walk in and she'll be like, "Oh, this looks kind of cool." I'm like, "Oh, yes, it does." wait, is someone? I don't know. I worry about plot holes and crap that won't make sense because I just want to show her that movie with nothing else in her head about Transformers, I guess.
That's cool.
So, I don't know. But that kind of leads into, if they were introduced to Transformers through the Michael Bay produced explosion party time, whatever, that might be why they don't care about this as much. Yep. What's your question, Graham? You said you had a question?
Yeah, so it's a really weird thing, but in this new cartoon, just because that's so bizarre, but when the robots are doing stuff, or if there's like are there any little like small robots in it at all that maybe don't talk like at all?
Not really yet that I've seen. What do you mean?
You should have sound waves, like little guys, but I think they can talk.
Oh yeah, he has a
pterodactyl that doesn't talk.
Yeah, his cronies like Razorbeak and I forget the other names.
There was one thing in one of the Transformers movies, I can't remember which one, the Michael Bay Transformers movies, I can't remember which movie it was or anything, but there's a bit near the start. I know exactly what
you're going to bring up.
Okay, there's this weird little robot thing that did something at the start which sort of set all the events for the movie up or whatever, and as it was moving around, it was kind of making these weird insecty noises, like kind of like, I don't know, clicky noises and like weird insecty noises, like it was like a squeaking.
Yeah.
I was like, why would you have a robot that does that? Like, in my head, I was just like, this is just, I don't know why, that whole thing just ruined it for me. I was like, why would you create a robot that does that? Like, why are you making the stupid little noises? It's unnecessary. It's meant to be kind of trying to be stealthy, but it's making all these little noises and stuff. And I was like, that's so ridiculous, because the other robots will talk, but they don't like make stupid noises as they're moving around. They're like, I don't know. Right. There was something about it that really wound me up. And like,
I thought you were going to talk about that one guy that's like a little thug. The one tiny one, like he was like, he would always like talk like he's like a gangster or something. He's like, I
have no idea what you're talking about now.
I can't remember which film.
Is that in the Michael Bay movies?
Terrible. Yeah.
I think there was one Michael Bay movie of those Transformers that I actually went to see in the cinema with some friends. They kind of dragged me along. I was actually like, I'm enjoying this movie. It's not great, but I'm enjoying it. But all the others I saw, I was just like, this isn't for me. And I liked the old Transformers back in the day. I'm not going to say I'm a massive fan. I had some of the toys. I watched the movie. I remember seeing the show. I remember seeing some of the spin-off shows. I remember there was some in the like mid
Beast Wars.
That was it. Yeah, Beast Wars. Yeah, I remember seeing that.
Right after Reboot.
Oh yeah, Reboot and Beast Wars. But yeah, and just then that Michael Bay movie, I just remember getting really annoyed about like why would that be a thing? And I just try to think.
Rest assured, there is no Transformer like that in this. I thought to be on brand, you were going to be like, is the Xbox 360 Transformer in this? You guys don't remember when an Xbox turned into a Decepticon or whatever?
Oh, vaguely. Did it? No, I don't remember that.
Vaguely.
Yeah, it was like some one of the worst parts of the movie. Like basically, we have this laser gun that turns things into Decepticons. So they were shooting like a soda machine. So it was just all right. Now we're gamers because we a Mountain Dew machine and an Xbox turned into Decepticons. Count me in, you idiot.
I bet they were just imagining like all these like nerdy gamers just like squealing in the audience. Like they're gonna go fucking apeshit. These nerdy gamers, they love this stuff.
Yeah, they're probably like, how do we turn a pizza into it next or something?
What are these kids like these days, Sam? Xboxes, do it, make it happen. Exactly. That's my impression of an American TV producer. Sorry.
Right away, Mr. Kent. Right away.
Oh wow!
That's my recommendation, though. Watch more Transformers, I guess.
So my recommendation this week is, I'm really behind in TV shows and everything. I catch up with stuff on Netflix and I'm like, this seems like a show that was released 10 years ago. Maybe it's okay. And I watch it and I'm like, yes, this is great. So I did that with Merlin. Quick update on Merlin. I finished it. I really enjoyed the last episode up until the final 2 minutes where they kind of ruined it. Otherwise it was really enjoyable. Like it's literally like they thought, how can we really tie this off? What can we do to wrap it up? I know. And they I don't want to say it because it might spoil it for people, but they inserted something.
It was like, all a dream.
Not quite that bad, but...
Wait, are you talking about Game of Thrones?
Yes.
I'm just kidding.
Game of Thrones was also all a dream.
So, yeah. I enjoyed the last episode of Merlin more than I did the last episode of Game of Thrones for various reasons. But yeah, there's one little thing. Because I just thought the whole last episode of Game of Thrones is just kind of throw away this. You've just ruined every character in the whole franchise. You just ruined. For Merlin, they was really good ending, quite emotional at points. But then they just wrapped it up with one little thing that ruined it.
Okay, sorry. I scrolled down to see your recommendation, and now I understand where you're coming from.
So let's move on to my recommendation. So I started watching Once Upon a Time on Netflix. So it's not a Netflix show, but it's on Netflix at the moment. Have you guys heard of this show at all? I assume you have.
I watched the first 2 seasons of it, and then I fell off hard.
Okay,
I think the same thing with us. Like we watched the first season or 2 and just kind of quit.
Okay,
didn't keep with it.
So
but I liked what I saw. Like it was fine.
Yeah,
it's not a bad show.
For anyone who doesn't know about it or needs a refresher, it was released back in 2011. It went until 2018, so there's like 7 seasons of it. It stars Jennifer Goodwin and Jennifer Morrison. Jennifer Morrison's probably better known by some people for playing one of the main leads in House, the female doctor in House, for the first few seasons, and then she did leave, probably around the time that this sort of kicked off, actually. There's actually loads of famous people in it. Like, there's loads of characters, like people who pop up. I'm like, oh my god, that person's so in something. That person's in something. That person's in something. I'm like, oh my god, like they're not all necessarily really well known actors. Probably Robert Carlyle is probably the most famous, I'd say, because he's actually been in movies and all sorts of things. He's a British actor who's been in quite a lot of stuff over here. He was in The Full Monty. That's probably one of the biggest international releases that people know about. He's in lots of stuff. There's also a guy called Alan Dale, who for British people, he played a character called Jim Robinson in the Australian TV soap Neighbours, which is massive in the UK. But for everyone else, he's been in almost every major American TV show. He's been like in 24, Ugly Betty. He was even in Flight of the Conchords and stuff. He pops up in everything. I think he was in Lost as well. He was in so many different things. Anyway, sorry. The whole premise of the show is it's about how the sort of fantasy fairy tale stories that you hear about are all true, and they're all part of this like other magical realm, essentially, where all the fairy tale characters, their lives, they all sort of live together. Their lives might be interlinked in different ways and stuff. And effectively, the wicked queen, like who's a witch, basically, she puts a curse on the entire realm, which draws them all to, I'm going to say, real life, which is basically our world. And they're all trapped in this town called Storybrooke, but all their memories have been erased of who they were. So you've got people like Snow White, Prince Charming, Jiminy Cricket, Pinocchio, Geppetto, Pinocchio's father of sorts. So like characters like that from sort of fairy tales, and they're all in the real world. But just before they were brought to the real world, they put this child in this wardrobe thing, which protected her from the magic. And she was also taken to our world, but not put in this town. But she basically is the one person who can break this curse effectively. And it's all about how she's actually brought into this town in a certain way, and she's kind of introduced to the lives of these people. And when she arrives, strange things start happening and stuff in Storybrooke, and certain events happen that people start to remember certain things about their past. And but basically, I think it's a really entertaining show. I started watching it last week, I think on Monday last week, and I'm already on to season 2 now. I've been watching like a good 2 or 3 episodes a day, basically. I've really, really, really got into it. I think it's really entertaining. It's partly about like it sort of jumps between the different realms. So it sort of show you the past of some of the characters each week and show you how they sort of came to be. It sort of shows you the past of the wicked queen witch person, how she sort of became evil and stuff, and like why she wants to put this curse on the whole realm. So at the start of the show, you're very much like, oh my god, she's a bitch, an evil bad guy. And then you sort of start to soften to her, because like you sort of see where she came from. And there's a couple of characters in it who are kind of goody baddies, who like they sometimes do evil stuff, but sometimes they do things to help the good guys out. I just think it's a really entertaining show, and I think it's a really good take on a lot of the fairy tale stories. When they introduce the different fairy tale characters, these are not all quite as they are in the storybooks, as it were. So I'm really enjoying it. Now on season 2, I still think it's going really well. Maybe at the end of season 2, I'll drop off like you guys did. I don't know. But I'm really enjoying it. But it also brings me on to some tragic news that I read. I basically just Googled something about it yesterday, and on a load of sites it came up saying that it's now being removed from Netflix on September the 6th, I think. So I've got like a month to try and watch this, basically, to watch 7 seasons.
Buy your shows that you like on Blu-ray.
Yeah.
Or DVD. as we discussed last week.
Or DVD.
Or HD DVD.
VHS, baby.
Let's go for VHS. So that's what I might have to do. I might have to actually buy this because I'm really enjoying it. I'll guarantee I'll get through the next season, maybe in the third season within that time, because I'm smashing through it at the moment. So we'll see if it stays entertaining enough for me. But yeah, you guys said you've seen it. Do you guys have any thoughts on it, or did it get really bad for you, or what do you think?
You can go first, Chris, if you want.
Now that you're talking about it, I'm wondering if this is the actual show that I watched. Because I know there was another fairy tale show that we were watching for a little while, but it didn't sound like what you're explaining.
Yours wasn't Grimm, was it?
No.
Okay.
No, I can't remember what it was, but it was not this story.
Right. There was.
Did it star a lady that looked like she belonged in every Hallmark movie? The one that you were watching, Chris? Because that's what this...
Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember.
The reason I fell off of this, and I apologize for looking like I was looking at my phone most of what you were saying, Graham, because I was trying to find another series that this reminded me of for this.
Okay.
Same reason that I dropped, because I could not. It had such a generic name, I couldn't remember it. The other show is called Invasion. Wow, how did I not find that show? And this. Once upon a time, I fell off of it because so often, almost every episode, and then at the end of the seasons, everything would almost happen and almost get to this big climax, but it kept not getting there, and I couldn't take that lack of satisfaction following the suspense. And the same thing happened with Invasion. Invasion was an alien-related, of course, not sitcom, Jesus, a TV series. Yeah, those wacky aliens are at it again. But they, honey, where's my probe? That was that famous line. Sorry. No, Invasion was this show about. I think that it was taking place in like Georgia or Tennessee or somewhere where there was a lot of marshes. And the aliens were actually water-based aliens, so you never saw them, ever. You always saw this light under the water, and it was bubbling up, and then something would happen, and it would possess someone, and someone would act differently, because it was like body snatcher kind of stuff, but you never saw the aliens, and it would always get almost just close enough, and I was like, I can't watch this show. There's so much lack of satisfaction in this. Like, even if they show like a hand, a fin, a tentacle, something, give me something, but it was never anything other than, we can't afford the prosthetics, so I'm an alien now, guys. Look at me being a bad dude instead of a nice person.
That's what happens when you take on like a too big a project and you just don't have the budget.
Yeah.
You know,
right? Exactly. Yeah. And I think the reason I couldn't get into that was also because the TV series V or the movies V, if you guys have ever seen any of those, they lead up to things and lead up to the alien race. But then you see what's going on with the aliens. You're like, holy shit, this is great, and I want to keep
watching the original a couple months ago. And the original still holds up because I never watched it before.
It's surprisingly well.
Oh my god, it was really, really good, and it's like a mini series because there's only like 5 episodes or something.
Right.
So it's not long. Yeah, but they're each like an hour and a half long or something crazy.
Yeah, I actually watched the original leading up to the new series coming out because the new series starred. I can't remember the actress's name. Who was
Morena Baccarin?
She was in Firefly.
Yeah, Firefly and Serenity,
and also Deadpool's girlfriend in the new Deadpool movies. So I watched the original leading up to that. Both pretty decent. I fell off the original though, just because I couldn't keep up with the TV schedule, and this was before streaming services really were as prominent. But all of that leads me up to Once Upon a Time. I just lost interest because there were so many episodes. Like Rumpelstiltskin is the coolest character in that show by far.
Oh yeah.
But there was so many times where it was so close to. It was like if you could compare it to any series that I was super into, I'd throw it back to X-Files because X-Files always had these secrets and conspiracies and would lead up to stuff, and then it might end the episode revealing something, but it would it wouldn't reveal everything. It would reveal just enough so that you're like, oh, there is an overarching plot, and like, oh, this is connected to this. I need to keep watching this show. Where I felt like Once Upon a Time did the opposite. It's still a good show, but I felt like it blue balled me too much that I couldn't keep up with it.
Okay,
you basically just like hit on like the formula for a successful like TV show. Basically, like you have to keep giving the audience like something, you know.
Yeah.
Like,
You got to give pieces. You can't give nothing. Yeah.
So-
I mean, if you're constantly just like, you know, like making them wait, they're eventually just gonna lose interest and just quit it altogether.
So it's interesting you say that, because I haven't got as far as you, obviously, but for the first season, I think they did do that. I think like they did give me results and things. Even in the last episode, they wrapped up so like lots of different pieces of the puzzle, but there was more to do, which moved on to the second season. So for me, I feel like they did do it well, but I guess maybe season 2 onwards they start to get a bit vaguer. I don't know yet, because I'm like 3 episodes into season 2, so.
You could also say what you just described as every first season of any TV show that's not sure if it's going to get greenlit for season 2. You know, they got to give you something.
Maybe.
Because you might not see it ever again.
Most seasons, their arc basically begins and ends in that first season. And then if they get greenlit for another one, then they'll start adding some new threads. It's probably what they've just written out, because they don't know if they're going to get renewed for a second season, so they're not going to do production work on a second season yet. And so it makes sense that season 1 of most shows have a pretty good defined begin and end to their plot.
I feel like for this one they maybe did know they were getting a season 2, because it wrapped up a lot of stuff, but it didn't wrap up everything. So there was a couple of bits, and they introduced something right at the end of the first season, which was like, oh my god, something massive is going to happen, to move on to season 2. So I feel like maybe for this one they did know they were getting a second season, but I'm not sure. As I say, maybe. I've only seen the first season all the way through so far. I really enjoyed it. I just really like the take on everything. I love the way they're telling the stories and going back to seeing, like, even in like the whole of the first season, you don't see everything about the evil queen and stuff. They're introducing more stuff, which I'm really enjoying. And Rumpelstiltskin as well. I think he's a great character.
Yeah.
He's one of those badass sort of characters, but he's also quite vulnerable, and you see why. And I don't know, there's just stuff about him, and like the main characters like Snow White and Prince Charming are the weaker characters, but they're still quite interesting because they're telling the story in a different way.
You realize how two-dimensional kind of those characters are, or that character that they're playing is.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, but there's lots of things I'm really enjoying about it. And yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's a good show in the right that it doesn't spoon feed you, which again is why I like the Transformers show. I hate when shows go out of their way to explain things. Like, do people really need the grim fairy tale backstory? No. So you see what you see in the show, and sometimes the main character is like, oh yeah, that's just like that story that I read, and that's why but that's it. Like, you don't have a whole scene on it. There's one sentence or something.
Yeah. Yeah, and any differences they have to the stories, they sort of are showing you in like in the main story arcs. They are showing you like stuff that's maybe not what you're used to. There's lots of stories they've gone through which are really good. Like they're playing on the old fairy tales.
This isn't all Disney stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
there was actually I'll mention this in season 2. It's not huge. this show's so old now it doesn't matter. In season 2 they introduced Captain Hook. And there's a really good thing I liked about that, in that the whole premise of Captain Hook is he loses his hand to a crocodile in the original Peter Pan storyline, and he's after that crocodile. In this, it's Rumpelstiltskin who takes his hand, and but before that actually happens, like in a few scenes, or even I think maybe in the episode before, he just makes one small reference to Rumpelstiltskin, because he mentions Rumpelstiltskin being a sewer rat. And then he actually sees his face, and Rumpelstiltskin's face is a bit green and different type of skin to everyone else because he's this weird magical character. And he goes, not so much a rat, more of a crocodile. And it's like a throwaway comment. And then like the next episode, he actually cuts off his hand and stuff. And I was like, oh my God, that's actually like quite a nice little... It's still part of the same story, but it's different, if that makes sense. He has lost his hand to a crocodile. But yeah. Anyway, sorry. There's just things like that I really enjoy about it. So I think sometimes when you know the lore or like the stories of these shows, it makes the original fairy tales, it makes it just as more interesting because you're like, oh wow, that's a good play on that. Anyway, that's my recommendation. It's on Netflix for the time being. It looks like it's being removed on September the 9th. So if anyone watching or listening is vaguely interested in what I've just said, or put off, or hopefully not put off by what Scotty and Chris have just said, go and watch it. Check it out. Yes.
Still give it a shot. It's still a good show. Did it end finally?
Yeah, it ended in 2018. Apparently they did finish it. Someone told me though that the second to last season finishes it more than the last season. They're like, go to second to last season, then stop, because the last season's not very good. And
I've heard that about shows all the time.
And apparently, the last episode in the second to last season was a really good ending. They're like, yeah, just stop there. It's a good ending. You'll be satisfied. I'm like, well, okay, I'll give it a try.
I could start a top 10 list of don't watch the last season of this show, to be honest with you. So that's not totally surprising.
Yep.
We won't get into that right now, though.
That's another feature for another week. Excellent.
That's right. Speaking of invasion, I think Chris is getting invaded, so maybe we need to take a break right now.
Yeah, sounds good.